Good morning, class. It's about 7:05, about 15 minutes till you guys come to class. I wanted to try to get through a little bit of this. So we left off yesterday with Bleeding Kansas, and Bleeding Kansas is one of the results of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and how settlers from the north and the south began settling in Kansas in order to sway the 1855 election in terms of popular sovereignty. All right. By the 1855 elections, settlers from Missouri have traveled in schooner loads into Kansas to vote for pro-slavery. A pro-slavery legislator is elected, they legalize it, but the free state supporters are still discontent with the democratic process. All right, so they begin to form their own constitution and apply for statehood on the basis of free state. What happens are the pro-slave forces are going to burn down the anti-slave state government that they kind of create. Abolitionist John Brown is going to come into Kansas from New York with his family. He's going to go on a crazy rampage and have what we call the Potawatomi Massacre, where Brown and his children kill about 5 of the pro-slave settlers. This Bleeding Kansas is going to become a symbol for the sectional controversy within the United States, where now the debate and conflict is outside of Congress and is leading to the ordinary citizens. Okay. What ends up happening is Charles Sumner of Massachusetts is going to give a speech titled "The Crime Against Kansas," where he's very critical of slavery, and as well as another senator from South Carolina by the name of Senator Butler. All right, Butler's nephew is named Preston Brooks. Preston Brooks is going to get so infuriated with Sumner that he's going to come up to the podium and start beating him with a cane. Sumner's going to have to go to the hospital for a couple weeks, but he will become a martyr, so to speak, for the anti-slave issue. All right, and obviously John Brown, we know, we'll talk about in a little bit, he's a martyr or a hero himself. Depends on the perspective that you're looking at him. All right. By 1854, what you have is the formation of the Republican Party. Northern Whigs, Northern Democrats, Free Soilers, Know Nothings, and other miscellaneous opponents of the Kansas-Nebraska Act are going to form this political party. All right, and the whole basis of it is try to put a final stance on the slave issue. By the 1856 presidential elections, people are so tired of the issue that James Buchanan is going to become the candidate, and pretty much he's going to win because he's so unassociated with Bleeding Kansas. Republicans are going to use John Fremont, who is against Kansas-Nebraska, and the Know Nothings and the Whigs are going to choose Millard Fillmore. All right, Buchanan's going to win, but it proved indecisive at critical moment in history. In fact, it's kind of like if they don't look at it, it's not their type of deal, and so they elect Buchanan, hoping that his non-decisiveness will help prevent further escalation of the problem. All right, but what actually ends up happening is after taking office, the United States is going to experience a financial panic and depression. In the North, Republicans are going to become strengthened because manufacturers, workers, farmers are all going to join together, and the depression is going to seem as a result of the unsound policies of the Southern Democratic administrations. All right. See, Fremont doesn't even win California from where he's from, so we don't know. Now, what happens in 1857 is, again, even though they want no action on slavery to be taking place, something is going to happen somewhere. In March of 57, the Supreme Court is going to rule Dred Scott versus Sanford. Scott was a slave who, after his master's death, sued his master's widow for his freedom on the grounds that the master had moved residence to a free state. But John Sanford, who was the brother of the deceased owner, claimed ownership of Scott. Roger Tawney, obviously from Taneytown, is going to make the final decision. And of course, what do you know? He owns slaves himself. This is a major defeat for anti-slavery movement. The Supreme Court had multiple decisions. Tawney said that Scott could not bring suit in the federal court because he is not a citizen. Blacks had virtually no rights under the Constitution, and slave property in the Fifth Amendment forbid taking property without due process, and therefore Congress had no authority to pass laws depriving persons of slave property in territories. So the crucial part of this is that it's going to rule the Missouri Compromise unconstitutional, that they can't say slaves can't live in above the 3630 parallel line. Okay, it did not challenge the rights of states to limit slavery, but the federal government now pretty much is powerless to limit to limit slavery. And we'll stop there.